Welcome to New Mexico Restaurants Now, where we get you the inside scoop on the food scene across New Mexico. This episode is brought to you by NMRA's Chef Table sponsors. These businesses provide the most generous level of support to help keep our restaurants protected, informed, and successful. So thank you to Benny Keith Foods, Food Industry Self-Insurance Fund, Heartland Payment Systems, Shamrock Foods, Cisco New Mexico, and U.S. Foods. We wouldn't be here without you. I'm Carol White of the New Mexico Restaurant Association, and our guest today is Ayers of Ohori's Coffee Roasters in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Ty is the winner of the New Mexico Restaurant Association's Manager of the Year Award. Congratulations and welcome, Ty.
Thank you, Carol. It's a pleasure to be here.
And I forgot to ask you if Ty is correct.
Yes, you're saying it correctly.
Okay, fabulous. It's always better if I do, right? Well, listen, I'm just thrilled. You know, I read your application for the Manager of the Year, and you know, I mean, even customers wrote in to say how wonderful you are, and you know what a great job you do there at Ohori's. And let's talk a minute about how you got started in the business.
Sure. I was thinking about that before this interview, and in terms of coffee, I would say I got started as a teenager. I was born in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and really coffee houses, primarily at that time of my life in the 80s, were the places where young people could meet outside of homes. There was the Aztec Cafe at that time. And I grew an appreciation for coffee, but also what some people term the middle space, where people can gather. And I really loved that middle space from a young age. And so, you know, I did start drinking coffee fairly young. And then my father was an accountant for Ohori's Coffee, and Ohori's is has a special place in Santa Fe, but also in New Mexico. And as far as we've been able to research, it was the first specialty coffee roaster in the state. And it really came out of this love. Susan Ohori came here and she wanted to be an artist and support the arts. And she actually is still in town and is a fabulous artist. And but she loved coffee. She had worked at the original Pete's in Berkeley, California. And she asked Alfred Pete, who was still around at that time, like, could you send me coffee? And he's like, no, we don't send coffee. Like, if you want coffee, you have to roast it in your own town. And she started doing that. Alfred Pete set up the roaster. And so my family was involved in that movement. In 84 is when she opened. And so I was around it as a kid. Then I did go off to college and have a lot of interests. But I ran the coffee house at my college. And after college, I went some places in the world and had some jobs. And I always loved both coffee and tea culture. I spent a lot of time in Asia, Southeast Asia, India, Nepal, and just always loved that culture. In India, it's more like the chai, often one person on the side of the road, but they're the same as a barista in Italy, like serving people, talking to people, and the sort of culture of the drink. And then I just had the opportunity to start working as a barista in Ohori's around 2001. And I realized, this being 2021, that I have been, I've had my hand here for about 20 years this year.
Wow. Yeah. There's some years in there, right? Well, I want to read something that you put in your application because I think it's just brilliant. And you wrote that food and drink are life. The community of people that own and operate restaurants are my brothers and sisters. We bring colors, tastes, textures, and variety to the human experience. We bring comfort, joy, surprise, and we wash dishes. And you talk about being with Ohori's for 20 years. And, in here you also said that you started by scooping ice cream at Haagen-Dazs in Santa Fe.
Yeah.
I can remember going to, I grew up going to Santa Fe. I was born there, but then my grandparents lived there, and we always went to the plaza and always went to Haagen-Dazs, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I
So,
just hired somebody that worked there as a teenager too, mostly under Fred Libby, who started it and owned it for so many years. And it's interesting. Like it's hard for teenagers to find jobs, and that's another thing that sort of the cafe world provides in the restaurant world is like early jobs for young people. I love that. But what was your
well,
question about my quote?
there wasn't really a question because it was just so beautiful. I wanted to be sure and get it into the podcast. I mean, that's, we're all artists in a way, and that was a very artistic rendition of what you believe that restaurants are, and certainly I have that belief as well. So let's talk a little bit about what do you serve at Ohori's?
So what do we serve? So we have an interesting like niche in the coffee world right now. We have over 30 types of coffee beans that we roast in Santa Fe. Um, and it's that part is the heart of our business. And why I say it's special is that most specialty coffee, they're working with 4 to 5 types of coffee. We started having all these basically um, coffee beans available to customers so long ago, and we've just managed to keep in that flow. Um, so that in itself is wild for me. I'm always like, how are we even doing this? But we are. We have, I think, about 5 blends, a good selection of decaf coffees, and then a really wide selection of single origin coffees. And so we also serve that coffee that we're roasting throughout the day. We still have our baristas like hand scoop the coffee for customers. So the average Ohori's coffee customer, they're either coming in for beans to bring home and make coffee at home, which I also love. I just love that connection that they're like coming in, having a person give them coffee, but then they're like at their home. I sometimes imagine, all the people that are making coffee at home with our beans. We have a beautiful selection of teas. And then we have partners in the community where we have fresh pastries daily with Tasuki Village Market and fresh donuts with Who's Donuts, both Santa Fe local businesses. And we have some beautiful small burritos that are made fresh daily in town. And and we work with other providers, some cookies and biscottis, and kind of reach out a little bit Colorado, Central United States for some of our other products. But we're a true cafe in that way. We don't have a kitchen in house, and the baristas really focus on drink work. And I'd put us like clearly in the middle world of baristas, like because we focus so much on coffee roasting. We have a lot of talented baristas. Some coffee shops that don't roast, they really focus on the barista. I'd say we focus more on the whole customer experience. And in the last like 10 years, I've also focused more that our coffee is available to like really the average economic person. So our prices for drinks, I really try to keep them reasonable. I love seeing all the diversity of people in here, construction workers really early in the morning, and then you start to get the flow of people in their suits, like especially around downtown, we have a lot of state workers, and sort of seeing those flow and making sure that we're a place that's available price point wise to a large amount of people.
Nice. So do you all now do you guys ship?
We do. We
Unlike Pete's, right?
we have been shipping, yeah, like we ship to retailers. We don't actually, kind of like Pete's, we don't ship wholesale. We do it like a little bit. We have some New Mexico partners, but Taos, we have a company in Taos that's been serving Ohori's for years. So we ship locally to some wholesale customers, and we have a really intimate wholesale business. Like I work with people one-on-one. It's not it's not like we don't have a whole extra department or something. Like it's very in-house, and people that want to work with us, we give wholesale prices too, and we love that they want to serve our coffee, but it hasn't been our focus like some of the roasters in New Mexico. And we do ship to retailers. Like right now all over the country, sometimes we get requests even in Europe. And I'm actually working to figure out better shipping. So a lot of people that visit New Mexico end up like coming into Ohori's, and we've just built up that shipping business over the years completely like homegrown. We don't do any advertising. And it's a healthy business, and it's really helped us in COVID. And I have a good team that my fulfillment team that ships coffee 6 days a week now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, I mean, you are manager of the year. And I mean, a lot of the things that I saw in your application were things that you were doing for your staff, especially during this pandemic, that doesn't ever seem to end, right? And so let's talk about that a little bit because, being a manager of people is not easy. You've done it for 20 years, and talk a little bit about your journey.
Yeah. Well, just to say, I often feel like I'm always in the middle. I mean, even recently, I have been exploring who I am as a manager, things I can improve. I'm just like, I feel like that has to be the heart of being a manager, is how we can improve our own behaviors, our own understandings. Sometimes we need to be kinder, more understanding, and sometimes we need to be firmer and bring more clarity about what we want. And so that sort of dance between, the clarity of a good product and customer experience, and also the relationship with all of these people that are what make Ohori's like, is so important. And I'm just somebody who's looking at it. And my journey, boy, I've always been interested in sort of the human condition. I think if I hadn't ended up here, I probably would have gone into mental health. And I am concerned about the experience of the employee, and the growth of the employee, while they get, and part of my concern is that they have privacy, they have their own lifestyle choices, and they're still able to have a place in our workplace. Just, dealing with COVID has taught me so much around flexibility. Like, a restaurant needs to be firm, like, this is what we are hiring you to do. But just this week we had some people with exposures, and immediately we have to like give them space to get tested, make sure that we are following safe practices, and the whole company has to adjust when we have those circumstances. And that sort of dance around adjusting to, one or two people having to change schedules. It's simple, right? Schedules are like the heart of what a manager is looking at, and schedules really affect people's life. One of the ways I see it is that I have to guarantee that they get so many shifts, because this is often what is supplying their livelihood, their rent, their food. On the other hand, I can't just say to a crew, okay, everyone has to work overtime or more time because of my business. So at Ahori's, I don't make that choice. I don't force people into more time. And I try to reach out and say, what are people capable of? Are you getting enough rest to do extra shifts? Or if not, then it becomes my responsibility. And recently we've even had to close the store midday because we don't have enough people working, or if we're responding to a health situation. And that's been a very hard decision for my husband, and I make these decisions together. So sometimes you're making financial decisions that aren't necessarily, they don't look good on the books, the financial books. But my philosophy is that if I'm making good decisions for the health of the people, that ultimately the health of the business will reflect that. And that hopefully the customer experience and the product will reflect in the way that people are treated when they come in. And I deal with issues all the time. Customers call me we've been having a lot. We only have one drive-through, which has been heavily used for the last 2 years, and customers get upset about the wait time. So as a manager, it's like, wow, okay, how can I actually help this situation of like too many cars being in the line, and be creative, and then also like tell the customer, hey, these employees are doing their best. um Carol, help me if I can say more.
Well, I mean, I appreciate it because unfortunately, I think the industry has been getting, one third of all Americans get their first job in the restaurant industry, and I think I'm super proud of that fact. We do on the job training. We take those kids that, don't even can't even manage eye contact when you first start with them, and then eventually they become these wonderful people that know how to serve other people and know how to talk to other people. And you talk to folks who, they may have had their first job at a McDonald's, right? And it's, and everybody's like, oh, you were a burger flipper, whatever. You know what? They appreciate the fact that they learned the things that they learned, how to deal with customers, how to deal with sales, and all of those things that eventually they've used in their lives again, whether they stayed in the industry or not. And so, but the industry has gotten kind of a bad reputation for, inflexibility and things like that. And I really appreciate that you're thinking about these things and that you're thinking about your employees when it comes down to this, and, asking them what, can you manage the schedule? If you can't, we may have to close. And, give them some choices.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all struggling with that right now because we don't have enough employees. But I appreciate the fact that you've got a thoughtfulness about it that you're, and I do want to talk a little bit about, you've even brought in somebody to help your employees this year manage their mental stress. Is that correct?
Yeah, we started a program. It was interesting. It came a little bit from like needing at one point to hire a lawyer, and this idea of like having a lawyer on retainer, for like any questions I might have. And that's been very positive for me as a manager to like be able to email a lawyer, have somebody on retainer. And then, you know, I have been through situations as a manager in the last 20 years that really were not at my skill level. People experiencing domestic abuse, and gosh, I mean, just, so many things that come down to mental health situations, either for the individual or for the environment they're in. And so I had this idea to have a mental health counselor on retainer. And part of it is that Ohori's, as a very small local business, hasn't been able to put together an insurance package for our employees. And I'm always sort of looking at how we can financially, both for the barista and for the company, bring that to people. As larger corporations, that's one of the things I feel they get access to. So part of it was that sort of like, where can we bridge some gaps that we don't have health insurance yet? And I had this idea of a mental health care person on retainer, both for me, but also for the staff. So right now, the staff has access to up to two full appointments, and they don't have to tell me, because that's part of counseling, is the contract between the counselor and the employee. And then I just get charged anonymously by this person. And that's sort of where the retainer comes in. They have an agreement with me that they can charge me. And they actually specialize in resources, because there's a lot of resources around mental health, but people don't know how to navigate the system. So the person themselves is a counselor, and they specialize in how to find resources for people. So yeah, we have that program. I think it's helped me to know that I have somebody I can reach out to when we have issues with the staff. And I hope that for our staff, knowing that they can do that is like a comfort to them. And I find there just is a lot more, it feels like there's more mental health challenges in this time than there have been before, but they've always been there. So yeah, this is an exciting program. And the counselor herself and I have talked about, like, the possibility of speaking about this more in the industry and making it affordable to restaurants as a practice. So we'll see where that goes.
Well, let me know. Yeah, I
Yeah.
have. I can get to a lot of restaurants, and just having the conversation about it too is wonderful, because then it gives other people the idea that maybe that's something that they can do. So I want to, we're at our time. Who knew? That was a very fast 20 minutes. But what I want to say is there anything else? Do you have a website that people can go to order coffee? And then where are your locations? And then is there anything else you want to say?
Sure. Well, I'll start with, I'm really honored for this. And I think of, I think of things like this, like awards, that it just brings light to all people in these positions, these unseen positions. And I share this with everybody that's out there daily doing their work. Some of us these days kind of working every day of the week to keep things together. And I just appreciate this industry so much. I do, water and food are the source of life. Ohori's has a webpage. It's ahoriscoffee.com, all spelled out. And we have 2 locations in Santa Fe, retail locations, and we do provide wholesale services. And yeah, I'm just pleased to be able to have this position, in Santa Fe, in New Mexico, in the world, working with employees, and also being able to serve such a wonderful product that brings joy to people's life in a daily way.
Well, congratulations. It couldn't go to a more deserving person.
I really appreciate it. And thank you for all the work that MNRA has done. It has truly supported our business in the last couple of years. So we're really thankful that this organization is here in New Mexico, and all the work that you're doing, Carol.
Well, thank you so much. And we've got a webinar coming up, and be sure and make yourself aware of that. It's about a LEDA fund and some more money that's available to restaurants.
Oh, thank you. Wonderful job you all have done. Take care, and thank you for this moment.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you to our generous sponsors, U.S. Foods, Cisco, New Mexico, Shamrock Foods, Heartland Payment Systems, the Food Industry Self-Insurance Fund, and Benny Keith Foods for their annual sponsorship of NMRA and its programs. Visit nmrestaurants.org to learn more about the Restaurant Association and our Chef's Table sponsors. Thanks for tuning in to New Mexico Restaurants Now. You can watch this and other episodes on the New Mexico Restaurants Now YouTube channel. You can also subscribe to the audio podcast at Apple Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Amazon Music.